Hi, teaching team. This is Mythical Code. My name is Joshi, and my partner is Umar Montani. We'll start off this video by discussing our contribution to this project. I'll talk about mine first. So I was in charge of the API connection, so I figured out how we are supposed to connect the API to the web service. Also, both of us did a bit of UI as well. I was also in charge of the close bit functionality of our system. I did the close bit down functionality as well. I did sign contract functionality too. So for class diagram and design rationale, both of us contributed, we discussed it, and came up with it together. Umar, do you want to talk about what you did?
Yeah. So I was also working on the UI with Tony. I did some work on the login and open bid functionalities, as well as the creating contracts. And then both of us, we worked on the class diagrams and the design rationales together.
I think I'll move on to talk about our system that we have. I'll just run the code that we have. We decided to use Swing GUI for our user interface. So first we have this login page. I'm just gonna find a username from our web service. We can use James1 for I42, and it should be the same password as well. And when you log in, it'll say login successful because the details are correct, and you'll see a dashboard. Also, if you just put wrong details, it'll say it's login failed. The dashboard that we have here can connect to all of the different functionalities. We have create bids, bid on bids, and create contract as well. I want to first talk about the list functionality. So we can list all the users on the web service. That's all the users we have. We can also list all the bids. That's all the bids that we have on the web service. And we can also list all the subject. So I did this because it's easier for us to like go to the ID. So the bid functionality. So if a user want to create a bid, they can click on create bid first. It'll ask you the type of the bid, for example, open. And the bid initiator, you have to put in an ID for this. I'll just quickly look for an ID. And subject. Additional information you can put in whatever. When you create. I will say new bid created. And a new bid will be created in the system, in the web service as well. If the ID is wrong, I will say bidding failed. So if you want to bid an open bid, you just go to this page and you put in the details that you wish to put in, and you can just click on bid. I didn't put in anything, so it's bidding failed. The same goes for closed bid. You just put in the information that you need to. Moving on to contract. So first of all, you need to create a contract if you wanna like sign. So there's a bunch of information that you have to fill in. If you fill in the correct detail, it will say successful. But if you don't, it won't create anything. If you wanna actually sign the contract, all you need is just the ID, and the date will be automatically created when you sign. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole GUI that we have. So we have login on the first page, and then when you log in, you have all of these buttons on the dashboard that you can go to every functionalities you wish to do. So yeah, that's pretty much the system. Yeah, I'll just quickly talk about the structure of our project. So we decided to use Swing GUI. So most of these classes are based on the functionalities and the UI that we considered. So we have bid, contract, subject, and users. These are all the functionalities that we want to include in the UI. And we have a dashboard class here. This is for all the buttons that we have. This is kind of an abstraction, so it's easier for us to like navigate to different classes and to do different functionalities. Inside each class, it's basically us creating the GUI, and for every button we have, there will be a button listener. This is kind of the how we actually implement the functionality. So we get the text from the user and then create our own JSON files and then send the HTTP request to the web services. So that's how we actually manage to implement the functionalities. So yeah, the same structures goes to pretty much all of the other classes. We have all the methods to create GUI and the button listeners to actually implement the functionalities. So we go to the web service and then come back. Yeah, that's pretty much the basic structure of the system. I want to explain like how we connect, how we use Java to send the HTTP request. So we use the sample code from Moodle as a reference. So we use the java.net HTTP client. And that's exactly how we send the request to the web services and get the details. So yeah, that's how we send the request from Java.
Now I'm going to talk about the code and the design rationale behind the code. So first off, I'm just going to talk about the most obvious one is single responsibility principle. Basically that means is that each class should be responsible for a single part of functionality. And as you can see, our listed classes, we've got one for creating a GUI, one that focuses on login, one that's a subject only, and one's a dashboard. So we've separated each of them out so that they do the most important thing for that class and nothing more. The next principle is open and close principle. To keep our classes open to extension, we separated the subject class from all the other classes, even though they are linked, so that if we do make changes to any subjects, we don't have to go through each other class to make any changes to that as well. We've also added a connection interface to handle API connections and requests to avoid having to make changes to multiple classes when the API request needs tinkering. Next up is the Liskov substitution principle. To avoid issues with the superclass, we make sure that the functions return what is expected. For example, with the GUI, we return a frame because every class that calls this function expects a frame, because this function is responsible for creating the graphical user interface that the subclass can use and change at their discretion. Next principle is the release reuse equivalency principle. So this is just to cut down on copying and pasting code in different classes and to avoid the duplication issues that come up with it. So if you need to change creating the JFrame code, it happens in one area only, and we don't have to go through multiple places to make the same change. We've also consolidated the API requests as well to avoid the same duplication issues. The pattern that we use was abstract factory. An example of that is the GUI class over here. It creates a JFrame object in a superclass, and that's returned to the subclass that was called, and allows them to alter the returned frame to whatever they need, their specific needs, which could be from changing the frame size to adding buttons and text inputs to the frame. These are the design rationales we use to create our app. And thank you for listening. Bye.